From today on, this house is mine. Think about what you're gonna do," said my husband, looking down on me with a smug grin. He spread his arms wide, swaying happily as if he was about to do a turn, surveying the spacious interior. "The place we are in is my family home. My father was a wealthy man and was particularly fond of his home. The house he built is valued at $5 million. My father left me this house, filled with his meticulous care, before he passed away recently. And now, my husband claims it as his own. Could it be that my husband thinks the inheritance I received also belongs to him?" Trying to explain that he has no right to it, my husband shows me something with a proud look. "I'm not making this up. This is the proof," he said. In his hand was. I am Harper, 38 years old. I work as a bank employee at an online bank. Choosing this career was largely influenced by the importance and the fear of money my parents instilled in me. Both my parents were significant investors. Growing up in a wealthy family, I was strictly taught about money from a young age. "Money is important. You have to protect it yourself," was my father's mantra. Despite having money, it wasn't like I could have everything I wanted. Our lifestyle was mindful of that of an average family. My allowance was a bit less than my peers, and we rarely dined at fancy restaurants. I went to a local public elementary school instead of a private one. Being local, it didn't take long for word to spread about my family's wealth and my parents' network. "Harper's family is rich, huh? Must be nice, getting whatever you want. Always got the latest games, right? Let me come over and play sometime." In reality, I couldn't get everything I wanted, nor did I own expensive things, but such comments became normal. To be honest, it didn't feel great. I thought I lived a life not much different from everyone else. In upper elementary, my friend Elena came to me with a problem. "I accidentally broke Aria's game, and now I have to pay her back, but I don't have the money. Harper, can you lend me some?" Elena was a girl who became my classmate that year. "Didn't you talk to your parents about it? I don't want to get scolded by them, so I can't tell them. You're the only one I can ask." Thinking about it, if I refused, would it make school awkward from tomorrow on? But I've been told not to lend or borrow money. "Sorry, I don't have it to give," I said, and she left crying. The next day, I was called out by Aria from the next class. "You ignored Elena when she asked to borrow money? Even though your family is rich, you won't help a friend. Elena says she can't pay for the damages, so you should pay for her," Aria said. I had nothing to do with it, but why did it end up like this? Though that's what I thought, I continued to explain that I couldn't give what I didn't have. Aria, who had been listening disinterestedly, said, "Come on, your family is rich, so there's no way you don't have money. Why lie about it? You care about money more than Elena, huh? You're abandoning her. That's cold." And with that, she walked away. From that day on, unpleasant rumors about me started to spread. Aria and Elena began saying I had swindled them out of their money or that I refused to compensate for the broken game console, spreading nothing but lies. The teachers quickly became aware of the situation and cautioned the two, but it only added fuel to the fire. Their bad-mouthing became more extreme, spreading far and wide. Eventually, it reached my parents' ears, leading to my father coming down to the elementary school. It didn't take long for a meeting between the parents to be arranged. After receiving a mere apology from the two, I haven't interacted with them since. They only look my way and smirk, talking among themselves without ever directly speaking to me. At dinner one evening, my father smiled in a troubled way. "Harper, next time someone asks to borrow money or for a favor, just say your dad has forbidden it. You don't need to say whether you have money or not. If they persist, tell them it's forbidden, but you could discuss it with me to see if there's a way around it," he advised. I was fed up with money-related troubles and nodded firmly at my father's words. From then on, I didn't bring up money myself and was careful not to invite friends over after moving on to higher education. I became more discerning in my friendships, looking beyond the surface. Even as an adult, I paid close attention to avoid financial disputes and immersed myself in my work to prevent unnecessary prying. At the age of 28, one of my few friends introduced me to Caleb, who would become my husband. From our first meeting, he looked at me straight, an honest man who could talk about anything. Though he was a year younger than me, he appeared about 5 years younger. Attracted to Caleb's honesty and brightness, we married 2 years later. The wedding was decided to be a grand affair. My parents, worried about me not having shown interest in men even past the age of 25, always fidgeted about whether I would ever marry. Delighted by the marriage, they insisted on a lavish ceremony since they were footing the bill. Caleb said, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, let's go all out." Your parents are also saying so, and so we had a grand wedding with many guests. About a month after the ceremony, my father suggested, "Why don't you bring Caleb home sometime?" I trusted Caleb, but knowing how casually he spoke, I feared he might inadvertently cause trouble by mentioning our home situation, potentially repeating the distress of my elementary days. Yet, as we were now married, it was something that eventually had to be revealed. I resolved myself to introduce Caleb to my family home. Upon seeing the house, Caleb stopped in his tracks, utterly astonished. He was speechless with surprise. As I showed him around, he kept saying, "I had no idea Harper came from such wealth," his eyes shining. After the visit and during our way home, Caleb kept asking about my wealth and the extent of our assets, focusing solely on financial matters. I tried to evade by saying I wasn't too clear on the details of my family's situation, but I couldn't shake off a bad feeling. Months later, I received a call from my mother. "Your father is going to be hospitalized."
What? Why? Is he okay?
I was so surprised, I didn't know what to ask. "The doctors said they would conduct more tests to find out. Your father hasn't been in good shape lately. Remember, he didn't eat much when you guys visited?" Indeed, now that she mentioned it, my father hadn't eaten that day and seemed thinner. "They'll tell us the results of the tests this weekend. Could you come with me, Harper?" "Of course, I'll make sure to be there," I assured her, deeply worried about my father. That weekend, I went to the hospital with my mother to see him. He looked well enough, but seemed to lack his usual vigor. When I spoke to him, he smiled and said, "Sorry to worry you. Can't be aging, huh?" Shortly after, the doctor called us in to inform us about my father's condition. He had pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. It had metastasized everywhere, making surgery impossible. I was speechless, and my mother broke down crying. How could this happen? He always took such good care of his health. My father listened in silence. The pancreas is located in a position that's hidden behind other organs, often leading to late discovery. By the time it's noticed, it's usually too late for effective treatment. Back in the hospital room, my father, with a resolved look on his face, said, "I'm sorry. I want you two to continue living happily." Both my mom and I couldn't help but burst into tears. From then on, I visited my dad as often as time would allow. With the recent pandemic, visits were restricted to family only, and my father cherished the time spent with his friends, which made him sad. Perhaps because of this desire, he expressed a wish for various people to visit our home. "Harper, after I'm gone, I'm counting on you to take care of our house. Invite many people and give the house a meaningful purpose." He entrusted me with this request. I wondered how I could fulfill my father's wish. I came up with an idea and started looking for a renovation contractor right away. Caleb was worried about me going to visit my dad every day on my days off. Since the incident at our family home, I hadn't been able to fully trust Caleb, who tends to speak without thinking, and I hadn't discussed the inheritance with him. "How's your dad doing?" "It doesn't seem very good." "I see. It must be tough on you alone, so I'll help out with your dad too," he offered kindly. Honestly, juggling work and hospital visits wasn't easy, so Caleb's kind words were comforting. However, his next words completely turned me off. As Harper's husband, I think I need to think about the future too. So, I'd like to know more about how much wealth your father has. It's not my money, and there's nothing I can tell you. The family wealth is managed by my dad, and though I don't want to think about it, if something happens to him, it will be managed by my mom. I replied. Then he said, "Right, but money matters are important." I met this legal advisor, Alexander, who said he could help with consultations. Your mom can't stay healthy forever, and it might be better to talk about it sooner. The fact that he was already considering the scenario after my mom's passing while my dad was in a critical condition made me want to sigh. Is it all about money for him too? It brought back unpleasant memories. My dad has a trusted lawyer he's been working with for years, so we're all set on that front. But we really should get the financials in order. It's important. It's important, so we're going to stick with someone we've trusted for years. Thanks for worrying, but it's all good. I reassured him. From that day on, Caleb would bring up my dad's finances or talk as if my still living dad had already passed, and I grew increasingly distant from Caleb. A few months later, my dad, after a valiant fight, passed away. After discussing with the family, the $5 million mansion, as per my dad's will, was inherited by me. Caleb made no effort to hide his keen interest in the estate. How's the inheritance process going? Or there are taxes involved with inheritance, so I'll introduce you to someone who can help minimize the losses, he persistently said, despite my telling him it wasn't necessary. One day, with a big smile, Caleb said, "Harper, you inherited that big house, right? Awesome. So, when can we move in?" "How do you know?" I was surprised. "I randomly met your cousin at the funeral and we chatted a bit and it came up." I wished he wouldn't casually discuss such important matters. I was also angry with my cousin. We did inherit it, but it's too big for just the two of us, so we're not planning to live there. Huh? Why inherit a house you're not gonna live in? It's a waste to let that mansion sit empty. Let's move in. A happy life awaits us there. It's already been decided by everyone. We're not living in that house. Huh? Why do you decide everything without consulting me, your husband? I've explained to Caleb time and again that the inheritance doesn't become joint property, but he doesn't seem to get it. More importantly, I had a goal to fulfill my father's wish with that house. Perhaps feeling ignored, Caleb started showing obvious hostility towards me after that. He attended my father's funeral but offered no help with the subsequent arrangements. After the funeral, there was no break for the bereaved family. I was busy with the inheritance process, memorial services, and paying visits to my father's friends. 1 month passed, then 2. Just as things started to settle down, I came home to find Caleb with a nasty smile saying, "Sit down, I have something to talk about." Wondering what it was about, he suddenly started saying, "I've transferred your family home's title to my name. Here's the documentation." He placed a piece of paper on the table labeled, "Title Change Report." I was dumbfounded. Marrying you was a mistake. I didn't see it when we were dating. I had no idea you were such a gloomy person with no friends and such poor communication skills. Your family may be rich, but your own income is low, truly useless. I thought it would be okay since you did the housework, but I can't stand being with you anymore. However, as a housekeeper for that mansion, I'll hire you. It'll be low pay, but you can live in the house your dad left. What do you say, take it or leave? If not, it's divorce. I have no use for you. Get out." And he laid out the divorce papers on the table. Furious at the sudden insult, I retorted, "What are you talking about all of a sudden, changing the title? You can't just do something like that on your own. I had Alexander, the legal advisor, arrange it for me." Huh? Well, you'll regret it, but I can't go on with you anymore. It's divorce. Saying that, I signed the divorce papers, packed my bags, and left the house. Money can easily change people. As I walked towards my family home, I reminded myself of this once again. The next day, Caleb called me.
Give me the keys to the house. It's mine now. Don't be ridiculous. It hasn't become your house. It's the precious family home passed down from my dad.
With that, I hung up the phone. He wasn't like this when we first met. Money really can change a person's heart. I was painfully reminded of the dangers of money. Now, what to do? As I pondered and took a breath, a loud alarm sounded, and I realized the home security system had been activated. There was banging on the front door.
Open up. Harper. This is my house now.
Caleb was trying to force his way in, triggering the security system.
I don't understand what you're talking about. This has always been our family's home.
I declared through the door.
Don't joke with me. I've completed the procedures. Open up now.
The sounds of fumbling with the lock and banging on the door echoed loudly. I ignored them. Soon after, the security arrived, and Caleb was restrained. I unlocked the door from the inside and told the security guard, "He's a stranger, please take him away."
What are you talking about? I showed you the documents yesterday. With the help of a legal advisor, I became the master of this house.
Caleb boasted unflinchingly to the security guard. I told him to wait and went back inside to get the documents. Returning to the entrance, I showed Caleb a copy of the certificate of good standing.
This house has been rightfully inherited by me, and the inheritance registration is complete.
Here's the proof.
See? Your so-called name change is fake.
Caleb was dumbstruck.
You know, just because someone is a legal advisor doesn't mean they can change ownership without the owner's consent.
I could see the color drain from Caleb's face.
It can't be. Alexander said he'd handle it because he's a friend of mine, even though it's costly. That's the job of a legal advisor.
Really, he's a friend? Where did you meet him? I couldn't help but ask.
When I talked about how Harper's dad was wealthy and I'd eventually get a share, Alexander approached me, offering help with inheritance tax and advice on estate distribution.
He seemed so trustworthy.
Even about this house, since Harper wasn't going to live in it, he said he could change the ownership to me, the husband, for $40,000, so I had him do it.
Caleb's face was on the verge of tears as he spoke. Pulling out his smartphone, he started making a call.
Alexander, please pick up.
He kept redialing.
It can't be. Alexander, why won't you answer? Didn't you think to check how inheritance registration works or the typical costs before asking? You spent $40,000 on a useless piece of paper, what a fool. This Alexander guy, just a scam artist, huh? Talking money with anyone who approaches and getting easily tricked. Caleb, I thought you weren't a bad person, but you've changed completely, blinded by money, goodbye.
As I was about to close the door, Caleb pleaded desperately.
Wait, Harper! I was wrong. I want to start over with you. Please, cancel the divorce. Don't you think that's too convenient? Security, please, take him away.
Caleb was escorted away by security. Afterwards, living in my family home, I enhanced the security. My mother and I also changed our contact information. Caleb tried to visit a few times, but was turned away by security each time until he stopped coming. 3 months later, during the summer, we held my father's first memorial party at home. Then, a familiar figure appeared. Incredibly haggard but unmistakably Caleb. Seeing Caleb in such a state didn't surprise me. Because I knew what he had been going through these past 3 months. A friend who introduced me to Caleb had been keeping me informed about his current situation. Caleb, hoping to reconcile with me, lied to his boss about needing to make external visits and spent hours searching for me. Eventually, his actions caught his company's attention, leading to warnings, demotion, and salary cuts, but he ignored all advice and was finally fired. Moreover, the overly trusting Caleb had been scammed multiple times over these 3 months. By various people offering profitable schemes and promises of reconciling with me. A truly concerned friend had warned him, but Caleb trusted the scam artists over his friend's advice. As a result, Caleb ended up in debt and was abandoned by friends and family alike. Caleb standing before me now had lost his income, family, everything. Dressed in dirty clothes, he didn't look like he was here to mourn a departed soul. Clearly out of place. Before I could call security, Caleb collapsed to his knees, then in the next moment, was apologizing to me.
Harper! I'm truly sorry.
He apologized loudly, staying collapsed. Such behavior, of course, stood out. People around us started looking my way.
Stop it, not here. This isn't the place. Today is an important day for my dad. Go back home.
I whispered to Caleb as softly as possible. I wanted to proceed with my father's first memorial party smoothly. That's what I thought would honor my father. I didn't want to ruin this important occasion for my father. However, Caleb, without considering my feelings, kept apologizing earnestly.
I really am reflecting. I'm full of regrets. Please, help me. Harper is all I have left.
He cried out, starting to weep loudly. His loud commotion, impossible to ignore, eventually drew the attention of the relatives who came to see what was happening. What's going on? Are you okay? Did Harper do something? What is this man doing? Various voices could be heard from around. I didn't want this. If things continued this way, the attention today would be on me, not my father.
Enough!
I shouted.
You're ruining my father's first memorial party. When will you stop bothering me? I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Security, please. He's a stalker.
Security rushed over and lifted Caleb by his sides.
Harper! Harper!
He continued to shout my name as he was taken away. I apologized to those around me.
I'm sorry for causing a disturbance when you came here for my father.
We were able to finish the first memorial party without further incidents. That same day, I went to the police to discuss Caleb's actions. And was prepared to file a report if anything else happened. Moreover, to completely sever ties with Caleb, I moved out of my family home. Actually, I had been planning to move anyway, so the scheduled move just happened a bit earlier. The relocation went smoothly as I had already decided on a new place. My friends continued to update me on Caleb's situation. Apparently, Caleb had visited my family home after the renovation and broke down crying upon seeing it. Unable to forget the life we had together and the hopes of becoming wealthy, Caleb lived aimlessly, unable to find motivation. However, one day, I saw Alexander, the legal advisor who had deceived Caleb, arrested for a different fraud case on a news program. Realizing that wrongdoers eventually face their consequences, Caleb managed to regain some hope and is now earnestly job hunting, having found a fulfilling job. As for me, after much thought about my father's words at the hospital to invite various people and make the house meaningful, I decided to turn my family home into a vacation rental. I had already chosen renovation contractors and had a clear direction, so the process went smoothly. Now, the mansion has been transformed into a vacation rental, which I manage with my mother. The last time Caleb saw my family home, it had already become a vacation rental. The business is thriving due to its excellent location and large garden. Managing it with my mother has increased our conversations, making my days very fulfilling.
Dad, this was the right thing to do, wasn't it?
I find myself speaking to my father in heaven every time we have guests. I'm happy to have fulfilled his wish.